It's a talk called Maximizing Single Donation Impact Through Retroactive Quadratic Funding for Global Nonprofits. Could you think of a longer, more difficult title, guys? Okay, give you a round of applause for your speakers,
Ouch.
Noah Gallant and Zach.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, well, let's get started. Yeah, so I'm Noah. I work at Endowment.
I'm Zach. I work at Gitcoin.
And today we're going to be talking about maximizing single donation impact through retroactive quadratic funding for global nonprofits. Really, this is a very long way of saying maximizing the impact of donations and minimizing the effort. We might have to do it manually.
Do this the old-fashioned way.
So, hi, I'm Noah. I've been a human-centered designer for about 7 years. This means working with universities, nonprofits, community organizations to help them further their causes through some form of design, whether it's like an app or a website. I've been researching peer-to-peer technologies for around that same length of time, DAT, Hypercore, and of course Ethereum. I was a freelance designer and developer at Site, doing e-commerce brands and Web3 sites. And now I am the lead designer at Endowment, doing the smart contract architecture, things like the application, the front end, designing the brand, and our identity. So I'll introduce Endowment a little bit more. We're crypto's community foundation. Really, like our tagline is smart contract philanthropy. This means we're doing on-chain donor-advised funds, which is a fund you put money into and then you can only grant out to nonprofits, and community funds, which is very similar, but anybody can donate into. We're also the largest online and on-chain Rolodex of nonprofits, so that's 501c3s in America and a growing base of global nonprofits. There's a smart contract for every nonprofit, so deterministic. And we enable direct donations through our contracts and granting on our application. And today we have over $50 million in total impact. So just wanted to show off the application a little bit so you can understand. This is a homepage. You'll see some statistics. Almost 8,000 orgs onboarded. This means they can claim their money from their smart contracts, $50 million. Next slide.
Cool.
We work with a lot of NFT projects who want to have an impact. So one example is the Grifter Fund you can see here. And lastly, we have an example of a page for a nonprofit on our application. Zach?
Cool. So I'll go next and introduce myself. My name is Zach. I'm a software engineer. I've been a software engineer for about 8 years. I specialized previously when I was doing a lot of active development in interactive design and development, so building large, high-trafficked home pages that were very interactive. I also spent a lot of time teaching at a coding bootcamp where I was a faculty director, if you've heard of General Assembly. The last couple of years of my career have been spent being a founder. So I founded a product studio that focused on data-intensive applications. That was based in Washington, D.C., where I was living at the time. After that, after selling that, I pivoted into crypto, as one does. I co-founded a DAO called Cabin, which was building a network city. I also founded a community called the Solidity Guild, which is a community of practice or a guild for Solidity engineers and protocol developers. Most recently, since January, I've been the developer relations lead for Gitcoin's Passport product. This is our Sybil Defense anti-bot developer API, and the protocol lead for Allo, which is a protocol that we're going to be talking about a lot today. So I'm here representing Gitcoin, and specifically Gitcoin's Allo protocol. Gitcoin has been going through a lot of changes over the last couple of years. We recently released an impact report where we shared that we distributed also $50 million in Web3 through the series of quadratic funding rounds that Gitcoin has run. Raise your hand if you donated in one of Gitcoin's grants programs. Yay, very exciting. So this $50 million, the vast majority of it comes from donors like you. This isn't money that Gitcoin is donating. This is money that's coming from individuals like you to projects in the Web3 ecosystem, excuse me. Our next phase, or this next hill that we're trying to climb, is really thinking about these two questions. How can we run more rounds, and how can we make it so anybody can run around? This is how we're going to scale the impact and get to the next 50 million and then 500 million and so on in funding, in grants funding. That really means three things for us. The first is the Grant Stack, which is a self-service product suite where anybody can run a quadratic funding round, and eventually direct grants as well. So your entire grants program can be run on that. It also means Allo protocol, which is what we're going to be talking about today. This is a general purpose protocol for the allocation of capital. Quadratic funding, if you want to do like endowment has done and layer quadratic funding into your protocol, you can do that. But you can do any sort of capital allocation mechanism that you can think of. And we've got a team that's experimenting with a ton of cool ideas for there. It also means something called PGN, which is going to get announced later today. That's all I'm actually going to say about that. So you'll have to follow Gitcoin on Twitter if you want to hear more.
So just to set the stage a little bit, we're really looking at how the Web3 community can enable large-scale global impact. So of course, in crypto, we have about $1 trillion in total value locked in a system of smart contracts where there's individuals, there's DAOs, whether they're mission-oriented, capital-oriented, there's smart contracts, there's dApps, all sitting on top of this money, whether it's for purpose or impact. I think there's still been a very big open question of how do we connect this all to very concretely make the world a better place. And just to speak a little bit on how endowment has seen this impact come through, a lot of it's institutional donors, venture funds, stuff like that, individual donors who've made a lot of money holding crypto, funds like the Grifter Fund, NFT projects, and DAOs like Uniswap, Sushi that have open community funds. And like we've mentioned, over $100 million has been raised through endowment in Gitcoin, but this is really a small fraction of that $1 trillion that's still sitting there. So there's friction in getting this money towards impact.
So one of the things that's been really fun about this partnership with Endowment is we separately, independently, Endowment and Gitcoin sat down and thought about this problem, and we arrived at the same conclusion, which it's too difficult in crypto to actually allocate capital or actually like invest capital in the projects that you care about, whether that's a philanthropic cause or your own community's definition of a public good or whatever it is that you're investing in to try and increase the size of your community. If you think about all the money that was raised in the last cycle from NFT projects, DAOs, token drops, whatever it was, how much of that is still just sitting in a treasury, hasn't been allocated, hasn't been distributed, hasn't been invested back into the community that those funds were raised for? Ultimately, it's just too difficult to make those kinds of decisions when you're talking about doing it with root level access to your treasury, right? Through most of the normal governance projects or processes that we've developed, right? So the goal here is how can we minimize the number of decisions and create basically meta decision frameworks that communities, DAOs, whoever can use so that they're making a single decision that they can green light or not and maximize the impact that they're trying to have.
Right, and when it comes to designing a solution like this, I obviously come from a human-centered design background, as I said, so this really means finding that intersection of empathy, creativity, and also sustainability when it comes to the financial side of it. So this is sort of like a product-focused process. If you want to learn more about it, IDEO is a great resource. They're becoming increasingly involved in the Web3 space. But it really means like defining who is the person we're trying to help enable here, which is Web3 endpoints, so whether it's individuals, DAOs, investors, and what is our method. So whether it's an application or a smart contract. And then, so we're gonna use the tools we have at our disposal to find a way to sort of compact this decision, fundraising, routing process to connect these endpoints to impact.
So in a slide or two, we're going to kind of announce and really dive into what it is that we're launching here, but you can kind of see how we're coming at this from both sides, both from this human-centered design side that Noah was just talking about, and then from our side, our experience running rounds, allocating capital to projects through quadratic funding, et cetera. The whole purpose of Allo, you can kind of think of it as spinning out the contracts that powered Sea Grants, our previous grants platform. So if you donated, if you raised your hand when I asked if you donated in a grants platform, it's like those contracts. How can we spin those out, make them composable so that anybody can build on top of them, right? Really, that's what we're trying to do. How can we build a playground on which people can build tools for the allocation of capital? Allo has a couple of key pieces into it. The documentation for Allo is live on our GitHub, so that's going to be the best place to go and look at that. But we can design strategies for the allocation of capital, whether that's something like voting or quadratic funding, and then we can design strategies for the distribution of that capital, like the universal impact pool.
So the Allo protocol being one tool in our toolkit to help us solve our problem. The other tool largely at our disposal for endowment is our smart contract ecosystem and our developers toolkit. So we have an on-chain system of verified addresses for nonprofits. We have an on-chain system of funds. We have our decentralized application. We have our contracts, and the other big thing is a developer suite, which aims to make that on-chain philanthropy programmable. And you can find that at developers.endowment.org. So combining these two tools, we sort of came together and found this idea for an endpoint for optimizing impact. A place you can put your money, make one decision, whether you're a DAO or an individual, and have that money be optimized and perpetually sent to good. So what this fund does is looks at donations and grants across the endowment ecosystem, which covers all, like I said, US nonprofits and an expanding base of global nonprofits, and then uses those as votes in a system to grant out the money to those in a sort of matching fashion to the nonprofits.
So this is really exciting because we basically composed these two projects together. What Endowment is basically doing is taking what Gitcoin Grants, the grants program, does, which, behind the Gitcoin Grants program, you vote by donating directly to a grantee. That is effectively voting for how that grantee should receive, how much they should receive from the matching pool. We basically forked that and implemented, I say we, I didn't actually do this. Endowment has a team of incredible engineers that did this. They basically forked this and implemented this into the endowment protocol. So now when you're donating an endowment, you are voting for how pools like the Universal Impact Pool get distributed across all of the nonprofits on endowment's protocol, right?
And so we're excited that we already have donations and allocations from obviously our partner Gitcoin through a governance proposal and funds that are originating from our blocks, and also a lot of our individual donors that have donor advised funds are seeing this already as a solution to optimizing their impact. So it's sort of hard to visualize what we're talking about here. So here's the application. It's live right now at app.endowment.org/universal. You can sort of see the description. What happens is that on a quarterly basis, a quarter of the fund gets granted out on a quadratic formula basis to all the nonprofits that get grants and donations on our platform. It's really exciting. I think we just had a distribution of around $40,000 for our second quarter, and the third quarter is ongoing right now. So you could donate to individual nonprofits to influence how this fund will get donated out, or you could send money into here and have it sort of optimally distributed.
All right, so what's next? The UIP is actually just the first of many impact pools to come. We're going to be working with communities over the course of the next couple of months to get them to contribute to the UIP, show them how easy this is. We've reduced philanthropic donation for large communities down to a single decision, right? All you have to do is decide whether or not as a community you want to do this, and then transfer the ETH into the Universal Impact Pool, where existing donation behavior will determine how that gets distributed, right? We're also going to be working on a direct contract integration for Allo. So right now, Endowment is using the tooling that Gitcoin has developed to do the calculations off-chain, just like Gitcoin has previously done. But as we, whoops. Just casually mining some Sepolia ETH in the background while I give my presentation, excuse me. You got to get it when you can, right? We're also going to be integrating directly with the Allo contracts, which are set to be released in September, right? At that point, what we'll be able to do is increase the number of categories of impact pools that we have on Endowment. Right now, there's the Universal Impact Pool that gets distributed universally, like the name suggests, but we're going to be able to do category-specific pools for things like the arts, for the environment, for human rights, et cetera. And so you can be just a little bit more selective in where you're making your donation, right? This effectively makes it so, the example here is anybody can turn any on-chain behavior into a vote in a quadratic funding or quadratic voting round that can then be automated. And then, of course, the announcement that we have later today is going to take this one step further. But like I said, you're going to have to follow Gitcoin on Twitter to figure out what that could possibly mean.
So you can already get involved. You can donate to the UIP through the interface, and you can also mint this PO app. All of the funds go directly to the UIP. There's also exclusive merch for anyone who mints it. We can jump back to this slide at the end, but that's sort of what we have.
Cool. You might have to step up this way so that people can scan the QR code. Yeah. So if you scan this and you donate to the Universal Impact Pool, you're using POAP's checkout feature. All of the funds go directly to the Universal Impact Pool. So far at ETH Barcelona, we've raised about $1,000 through this. So that's already another $1,000 that we can use to further the impact here. Would love for everybody to go and buy this POAP, and if you do, come find me because we've got some exclusive merch only for people who do this. If you don't do this, then you don't get the exclusive merch.
So thanks. Any questions? Yes. Yeah, so we have a partner called Global Giving, which is, the question was if we have plans to expand to global nonprofits. We have a partner called Global Giving, which is a US-based nonprofit, and they grant out money to an increasing number of global nonprofits that apply and are accepted into their program. And we're always looking for new ways to onboard, new global organizations.
Hey, can I use something for the hackathon? There are something open source right now to use in the hackathon?
Yeah, you've got a couple of options. The first of which is Endowment's Developer Toolkit. They've got an SDK, an API, a bunch of other tools that Noah can speak to. And then, of course, the Allo contracts are on Gitcoin's GitHub account. You can look at those there. And then Gitcoin also offers Passport, the developer API for civil defense. Yeah. Let me know, let us know if you integrate with either of those. Maybe you'll get some of the merch that's supposed to go for people who donate. Other questions?
Cool. Do we want to show that we also have a quest?
Yeah, we can go back and forth. So this is your quest. Previous slide had the QR code for donating to the impact pool.
Yep, and just a further note is we're sort of putting together governance proposals for major DAOs looking to increase their impact. So if you're a representative of a DAO that's looking to have impact, you want to stay aligned with your mission and keep moving and don't want to hold up your governance process trying to figure out which organizations to grant to, we're working on proposals to allocate to the impact pool. Which is really exciting. As we said, we already had a passing with flying colors one in the Gitcoin governance. So we will be doing a lot of these in Q3 and looking for partners.
Cool. All right, y'all. Well, thanks so much for coming. Really appreciate your time. Come find out.